Hey guys, Zangetsu 134 here, and I will be bringing you my DuckTales vlogs. So I wanted to make this a thing too, as I'm watching the DuckTales reboot, as probably a lot of people are my age, because it's a good reboot. I only am getting to watching them now because I had work over the weekend, so I couldn't watch them as they aired. I had to watch them on demand. Through my cable provider, but I am watching them now, and I will try to catch them again. Try to catch them on Saturday. Probably will not be able to make that probably won't make it again because I have to do some stuff with my computer. So anyway, this is actually the next two episodes in the show. Like, I guess 3 and 4 if you're not considering the pilot. The first episodes. But anyway, so in these episodes, the first one I watched was, I forget the name, but basically Louis accidentally uses Scrooge's first dime to buy a soda, and he tries to use one of Jar Gearloose's inventions to get the dime back, while Dewey and Webby go to the archives to try and learn about the triplets' mom. There they meet the archivist, whose name is escaping me. I think it's like Stepmaster or something like that. I kind of missed what they were saying, but I'll basically just call her the archivist of Scrooge's Money Bin. Yeah, no, that was a really fun episode for me, just because it was very heavy on references, particularly the stuff with Gyro, the fact that he mentions a Project Blatherskite, which was probably the most exciting part of me for that episode. But otherwise, it was a really fun episode. It was the only one of the two that went into the ongoing story of Delia Duck and the mystery surrounding her disappearance. It was really good. I really like that we got to see a lot of the modern money bin in the episode. Particularly the fact that we got to see like the archives, the fact that we got to meet Gyro and see how he works for Scrooge. And we got to see the vultures again from the first half of the pilot. And it was just kind of fun to watch. And it was really cool to see just the fact that the money bin is a lot bigger and different than the original money bin. Where the original money bin, you really only ever went to Scrooge's office and occasional other places in it. But I like the fact that we got to see it. Scrooge doesn't play a lot in this episode or the next one, but this one is really cool in that it talks about the importance of the first dime. It doesn't go completely into it. Like, he doesn't bring up the fact that his first dime was given to him in Ireland, and that at that point it was useless to him, but it inspired him to realize that he needs to be tougher than the toughies and smarter than the smarties, and so he would make his fortune in America to make the dime worth anything, and to make his first fortune so that he would never be tricked again. And here it basically says that, the first dime he ever was given to him inspired him to go to America. And that's more than enough, especially if we're going to maybe see more of the life and times of Scrooge McDuck. I hope so. I would really like to see them delve more into Scrooge's past. Like, not just the stuff with the Klondike or that scene of him in Ireland. I really would like to see more of his interesting adventures. But really, I think the two biggest things was the stuff with Della, which really didn't go much other than it brought up that spear they were talking about in the first episode, or the pilot, a lot. Clearly it has something to do with that adventure, especially because of the fact that Scrooge and Donald both seemed really upset about that. But yeah, and especially because of the fact that Scrooge seems to hide everything about her, Like, for one, like, the mailman brought a letter to Scrooge, and then the next day he bought the mailman the post office, according to Webby, and they never saw the mailman again. That particular mailman, which was really funny. I will admit, Webby was like the star of these two episodes. I really loved the new Webby, just because she's so hilarious, but also at the same time awkward in doing so. My favorite part in this is when Dewey like tries to like take a peek at her record books of the McDuck clan that she's written. They're covered in glitter, and she catches them red-handed because he's covered in red glitter, and she's like, "Do you think I just put this glitter on these because it's pretty?" And Dewey's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Well, that's just a bonus." But like, she was really cute in this, especially when her interactions with the archivist were really, really funny. The archivist herself was really hilarious too, because she acts like she's some sort of like gatekeeper to the archives, and like attacks them with a sword, but really she just wants them to do a little bit of her work so she doesn't have to do it. He's really funny. And Gyro is really different in this incarnation than he is in the show too, but I think in a good way. In this one, Gyro's like an angry crackpot inventor whose machinery have all so far gone evil just because they've all been robots, particularly Little Bulb. I will admit that's from the comics, that Little Bulb goes evil. Little Bulb in the original TV show was just kind of a thing that you would see in Gyro's place and that Gyro would talk to. But this Gyro clearly is obsessed with trying to make machines that will bend to his will, which kind of hints at what Project Blatherskite is. But I really like this Gear Loose just because I think he has a bit more of an interesting character. He's not just the quiet, friendly inventor that he was in the original. I like the original Gyro. It's just there's not much to him other than he built the Gizmo Duck suit, and kind of not much else. Like, he would have inventions and they would go haywire, but like you never felt like Gyro was doing so because he was obsessed with like getting somewhere and not seeing the problems in it, like this Gyro is. But yeah, no, it was a good episode after the pilot, especially just kind of establish more about the world. The next episode is again more Webby centric, and Scrooge is really not important to the episode. The episode's basically, actually more or less a Webby and, actually, I take that back, Webby and Beakley episode. Which I think was more done because they want to show that this Webby and Beakley are much more interesting and less of just kind of dead weight like they were in the original TV show. Like, Beakley herself was, brought in because she was the only one that could handle wrestling the boys into behaving. This Beakley, I do feel like she legitimately can. She's much more capable and much tougher than the Beakley of the original. I think mostly because of the fact that, for now, I think she's basically a combination of Duckworth and Beakley. We've yet to see Duckworth in this. I do know that they've hinted that Duckworth is in the show. He just might not be like the Duckworth we've seen in the other show. Sorry about that. But this one was really cool because the boys try to take Webby to have fun out in the regular world, but being raised by Beakley, who's basically a ninja, or maybe a spy. She kind of hints that she might have been a spy in her old days. But she's been living in that mansion her whole life without any interaction with other kids, and was raised to be like an adventurer. And she has to try and survive in the regular world. And I like the fact that the nephews bring her, but do kind of think they go to basically like a Chuck E. Cheese kind of place, and she causes trouble basically because she's too honest, for Louis, conning everyone in there to get free stuff, and erases all the scores in Dewey's Dance Dance Revolution-esque game. She doesn't really do anything to Huey, but they almost get kicked out because of her, and Huey has never been kicked out anywhere in his life because he's the goody-goody two-shoes of the group. And all that's happening, the Beagle Boys recognize who the kids are and try to kidnap them so they can get ransom from Scrooge McDuck, which goes about as well as you think. This is the first appearance of the modern Beagle Boys. This one's kind of weird because, they're very different from the original Beagle Boys. I know the only one that really is recognizable is Big Time. And there's only 3 of them, whereas there was 4 or 5 of the Beagle Boys in the original with of course Ma Beagle. In this one there's only 3 so far, and Ma. I think Burger is now skinny and doesn't talk, and I think Muscle. I think he's Brawny Beagle. I'm not entirely sure. They didn't give the Beagle Boys their names in this one. It's just pure Muscle. But they're still very much the Beagle Boys. I think they're much more comic accurate Beagle Boys than the original TV shows. But they're still fun. I like these Beagle Boys. They're very much inept, and don't listen to Ma. They were in the middle of a bank heist and they saw the kids, and instead of doing what Ma asked, went after the kids because Big Time is obsessed with hitting the big time. He clearly his hatred of Scrooge is more out of the fact that Scrooge has all this money and is rich and they're not. At least with Big Time. He wants to be a big shot. But yeah, and I think at most he definitely is the one that Ma is the most annoyed with. Ma Beagle in this is very different than the Ma Beagle from the cartoon. She's not super nice until you tick her off, and then she's, violent and actually cares about her kids, except for the fact, but is angry when they screw up. This Ma definitely knows her kids are idiots, and can't put up with it. But like I said, they're still the Beagle Boys I know, just different. And this Ma Beagle is also definitely, I think, more hands-on than the other Ma Beagle, where she would still try and have the Beagle Boys do most of the work, which always backfired in her face when she did so. But yeah, the other subplot would be the fact that Donald and Mrs. Beakley are butting heads because Donald doesn't want to basically have Mrs. Beakley do all the work for him because he takes care of himself. Which I think kind of hints more to the fact that, Donald, after him and Scrooge had their falling out, basically Donald had to do everything himself. He had to raise the boys himself. He had to try and, keep the houseboat afloat by himself. And kind of accepting that, he doesn't have to do that anymore. He can rely on the boys to do stuff. He can rely on, Beakley. Him and Beakley become good friends when they try to fight off the Beagle Boys to get the kids back. My favorite part being that when Donald just snaps and starts fighting the Beagle Boys so he can get his boys back. It was so Donald that it just brought a smile to my face. It was like I was watching an old Donald Duck cartoon. It was really good. And Beakley herself, actually getting in on the action was really good. Yeah, it was a good episode. Good episode to show how Webby and Beakley will play in this show, and how they'll interact with Donald, the boys, and Scrooge. The Scrooge episode was again very little of Scrooge. I almost wonder if that's because we're gonna get episodes where Scrooge is not in them very much because David Tennant's of the group kind of the one with the bigger career, so he can't always be there. do stuff. No, I'm not saying that is a bad thing or that like it's gonna be like Doctor Light, like Doctor Who, just which hilariously I'm wearing a Doctor Who shirt, uh, but that like Tennant does have a lot of stuff he's doing, so he's gonna have time. There's gonna be times where he just can't, be there. So maybe we'll get more episodes with the other characters, which I'm fine with. DuckTales is an ensemble show, and so far it's been a very good ensemble show. So yeah, like I said, very good episodes. A lot of great humor, like the last two. A lot of punchy, funny humor, and I can't wait to see more of this show. So yeah, guys. Kamen Rider Build will be coming more towards the middle of the week once I can get to the episodes. My computer is down at the moment, so I have to wait until I can. The place I can go, I usually go as like a backup. We'll load it up, but until then, hopefully this will tide you over. This is Zangetsu 134 signing out.